but it'd be nice to be remembered as a fantastic, contributor, as a generous, open, honest person that's made a difference. And I think my profile, what people think about me and things like that is quite important. But the most important thing I think is to think about my legacy.
Hello, friends. I hope you're all keeping well. My guest today is a prominent business figure in the West Midlands. He's a visiting professor in entrepreneurship at Birmingham City University. He currently holds senior leadership roles and serves as an ambassador for several charities. I have great pleasure in speaking to Professor Paul Cadman today. Good morning, Paul. Thank you so much for joining in. How are you?
Good morning, Chitra. I'm absolutely fine. It's a good Friday morning. The weather's broke. It's sunny outside. So the climate's changing. Vaccine seems to be on the uptake. Number of people are being vaccinated. Hey, I'm positive. I'm in a very good spirit. But I'm particularly pleased to have an opportunity of speaking to you.
Tell me something about your childhood and college years. What did you aspire to take up then?
Mine was probably a difficult journey because I was undiagnosed dyslexic. So my early memories of school were particularly awkward, painful, with being told by some teachers that I was an idiot, never going to make anything of myself, put in a corner, not bothered, nobody was bothering with me, nobody was teaching me. So it turned a young man into an angry young man who was quite rebellious and things like that, who didn't understand or appreciate education. It wasn't until kind of 30s that I was diagnosed with dyslexia and helped, guided, which changed my world completely. So my early years of school and college were all around sport. So I channeled my interests and, my mental sort of health towards sporting activities. Pretty good. That was an ex-cricketer and professional footballer. So we got sport pretty much in our day. So it was easy for me to take up football pretty well at that, and then take on rugby, do very well at that, and then some fighting, boxing and martial arts and things like that.
Right, that's very interesting. I want to talk to you about the learning and the challenges that you've had, post your college years. How did you actually discover your calling?
I've never settled or been in a job that I didn't think that I could sit there and think, this is it, I'm comfortable, I'm happy. So I'm hugely ambitious. For myself, for people around me and things like that. So I would say that I've discovered my calling through various different activities. So if you look at my portfolio of jobs that I've done and roles and things like that, it couldn't be any more diverse. So my calling at the moment is all about, giving back, making a difference, changing people's outlooks, education, people getting things that I didn't get, which was probably a good education, opportunities and things like that. Instead of having to go out there and fight for it, it's everybody's right to have opportunities given to them, I think.
Absolutely. Yes, very inspiring. You've been in the fire service, in the manufacturing, in the automotive industry for many years. When you started off, since then, how did you go about adapting to these very different fields? How have they shaped you, who you are today?
I mean, entering the fire service was a difficult challenge. I got into the fire service. You sit a number of exams and you're under a lot of pressure. So it's all about putting you out your comfort zone, putting you physically exhausted, taking you somewhere physically you've never been. Educationally, it's about testing everything. It's all very short, sharp, multiple choice questions and things like that to put you in there. Then you get to training school. Sleep deprivation is one of the tactics, physical exhaustion and things like that. So it is pushing you and pushing you. I think because of my dyslexia and because of the way that I was treated and things like that, I had an attitude of, I'm never going to give in. I'm never going to be beaten. Nothing will stop me. So that positive mindset So I think it's around what I developed was a positive attitude, a strategy around whatever the problem is, I'll get around it, I'll beat it and do that. So I think that's probably where I went and, where it took me.
Yeah, I think a positive mindset is extremely important, right? In order to achieve what we want to achieve and also to inspire others around us.
You lead by example as well. I've got this mindset that I will give positive posts out there. I will talk to people. I will share my views, my enthusiasm, my positive mindset with anybody that reaches out to me. So I get a number of people on social media reach out to me and just go, I'm having a bad time, things aren't good. Now, I'm not a counsellor, I'm not the Samaritans, I'm not anything like that, but I'm somebody that can send a positive message every day. I think having a positive mindset is something that you need to develop. Your brain's a muscle.
I'm sure you will have a lot of followers on social media. We all have certain leadership styles in whatever discipline that we represent. What are the qualities of your leadership style that makes you successful at such diverse pursuits? We have to lead a good example. Seeing you as a role model, you need to be an effective leader, right? You need to have the leadership traits in you. What do you think are your leadership traits, Paul?
So my style of leadership was severely challenged and hindered then. So I developed a style of leadership where absolutely crystal clear of what the instructions are, what the mission is, what the goal is, to be clear of that, to be a role model. So it's honesty, loyalty and integrity. If something goes wrong, it doesn't matter. It's open. You can be honest, and it's the loyalty. We're working together as a team. If somebody's struggling, give them a hand, it doesn't matter, that kind of stuff. And then the other point is around integrity. Integrity is the key point. So just deliver what you say you're going to deliver, do what you say you're going to do. And then just anything goes wrong, just be open and honest with people.
Yeah.
So we have a saying about throw it in the bucket, something's gone wrong and all of that. Throw it in the bucket, it doesn't matter, move on, see what you've got to do. And tomorrow's another day. It's that really.
Absolutely. Discipline. The other one is integrity.
Yeah.
Which is extremely important.
If you have children that have the mindset, and I'm not saying you discipline your children, you give them a role model that you don't need to discipline them. And I think that's important, and the honesty and integrity that they do what they say they're going to do and all that. And then your character develops from that point. So my parents were always very supportive, very forgiving, but always challenging in a positive way. That kind of thing. It didn't matter what went wrong. A mother loves the son, and that's always without question. But my mum would always show appreciation, show love and everything else like that. But so mum was always installing a mindset of project management, I think, from a very young age, which turned into a character, which turned into a lifestyle, I think.
We do face a lot of challenges in our professional front and also in the personal life. How did you respond?
So, yeah, I think it's going back to that days of being treated so badly at school and things like that and thrown on the rubbish heap, really. You can do one or two things. You can say, okay, that's it. This is my life, to be downtrodden, to be do as I'm told, to be, subservient or something like that. Or you can turn that into a positivity and have a mindset, whatever the challenges are in front of you, you take it in your stride. Now, let's flip it in a different way. We've just spent 12 months or so, and that word in unprecedented times, we've all been challenged. We've all done something that we've never done before. We've taken opportunities, decisions, and we've done things that we never have. Probably everybody on the planet is going to be stronger now than they were 12 months or 2 years ago. So we've grown, as individuals together, as a society, as a country. We've all grown. So I think it's around taking the challenges, going to that nth degree, and learning. So it's about resilience for me. I relish any challenge that anybody wants to put in front of me. And then when there's people sitting there and they can't deliver a project because they're under too much pressure or anything like that, I'll go, I'll do that. Let me have that. Let me go forward and things like that. So as a role model, I think that strength and the positivity is good, but actually you've got to believe that yourself.
Isn't it?
So, being a captain of a rugby team or captain of, a martial arts team or something like that. So leadership abilities that you truly believe. And then when you're talking to people, you know, people look at you in your eyes and they believe because you are supremely confident. And I think that's the thing that's got me through everything.
Yeah, you're right. The pandemic has really taught us, all of us, to be more resilient. So, did you know during your growing up years, someday you're going to be a very successful entrepreneur? What do all these mean to you personally, Paul?
I'm hugely humbled and privileged in some of the circles that I mix, some of the people that I know. I'm privileged that when I'm walking around the city, so many people know me by my first name, you know, and want to talk to me and want to spend time with me. I think that I've got a long way to go until I say that I'm successful. There's a number of key projects that I want to do and to deliver, not just for me. You know, there is a sense of self-satisfaction, but more importantly, you know, for society, you know, for my city, for the people there, you know, for the country, and probably globally, you know, impact on things globally. I still think I've got a long way to go. To be honest, a long way to go, I think.
Is this what you actually wanted to be when you were young? How was it like?
I've always had a mindset of doing things to raise money, to make things happen, to pull people together.
Right.
So we talk about very early days, you know, when I used to paint garden gnomes, so I started making them. I bought a mould and I bought some cement and we made some, we painted them, we sold them. I got a friend working with me so we could make more. We bought more moulds, we bought more stuff. And in the end, we had lorries turning up with cement and things like that. My parents, what was going on. Then we bought a shed because the weather was bad. Then we bought a garage, and then we had like 6 or 8 kids after school making, you know, all of this sort of stuff. So we did that, and then I left that for somebody else to run, and I went off to sell bike parts and things like that until I started that. So before the age of probably 14, I'd had 2 businesses that were doing okay. Yeah. You know, that kind of stuff. Still managed to do a paper round and still managed to go work in Birmingham markets on Saturdays. I'd always had this mindset of one thing after the other, things working, and that mindset hasn't changed. So I do a number of different roles, you know, different companies and things like that. My portfolio of businesses. I recently did my CV, and I think there's 14 active businesses. There's some non-exec positions, there's board positions that I sit in charities and things like that. So I probably, I don't know, 4 or 5 times the average sort of person's activity or output. That mindset of, I can make it work, I can do this, the confidence, whatever the industry is, whatever the business is. Yeah. You know, I think that's where I am.
We are greatly influenced by, you know, right from our childhood by several people. Who are your main influences in your life and why?
In the 80s, there was some bands that were talking about Nelson Mandela. Oh, I like the tune. Who's Nelson Mandela? There probably wasn't an internet then as such. True. But you go off and you ask people, who's Nelson Mandela? Oh, this, that, and the other and everything. Some people would say he's a terrorist. Some people say he's, you know, he's an inspiration, he's this, that, and the other, and, you know, he's been delivered from God because of his mindset. So you start to learn about people like that. And then and I looked at Gandhi, you know, and I looked at the Dalai Lama, and I looked at people like that. Then I looked at like Muhammad Ali, and I looked for people who stuck to their convictions and things like that, their ideas, rightly or wrongly, for that sort of thing. And I looked at some of the British politicians. I looked at, you know, Roosevelt and people like that as well, the American politicians. I looked at some military generals, how they had the character, you know, the supreme confidence to deliver what they did, to motivate hundreds, thousands of people. And you look at people like Churchill. Churchill's had quite an influence on my life. Now, it depends who you talk to him about around the world. Some people say he broke up the, you know, Europe, the world and things like that, and had a negative influence, and he was racist, he was this, that, and the other. Other people say he was, you know, he was the greatest role model. Yeah. So Churchill, I took a lot from Churchill. He was dyslexic, you know, and he took himself forward, and he was a reporter before he wrote all of these incredible speeches and took himself forward. I looked at Richard Branson. I wrote to Richard Branson when I was quite young, and I met him. And he was inspirational. He was just like, you can do whatever you want to do. and that sort of thing. So at that point, I developed an understanding that, I've met royal families, I've met presidents and things like that. They're normal people. They're exactly the same as me and you. They're not made of anything different. They're not special. They're not delivered from heaven or anything like that. They're normal human beings who have a positive mindset, a character, and they go forward. So who are my role models? I can look closer now, and I look at people like Marcus Rashford over the last 12 months. I don't have the time of day for sports people, especially footballers, but Marcus Rashford stepping aside, all of the racist abuse and things like that, that's like water off a duck's back, and he started his food. He's altered, the Prime Minister's mindset, the Cabinet's mindset, politics and everybody else, and the British public have changed the mindset to doing what they're doing. I look at people like our very own Rashid Gatrad, Professor Rashid Gatrad, who flies off to war-torn countries to do hundreds of operations, during his time when he's, delivering on the NHS and things like that. A man who's in his 70s who's got more enthusiasm and energy than I think I've ever had. And I look at people like that, and I look at people in day-to-day life. So, the postman who carried on over the last 12 months delivering the post, the person who works in the shop, I walked around Tesco's at one point, thanking the staff, going, thanks very much. Yeah. I actually appreciate what you do. So I don't need to see the Gandhis, and the Churchills and things like that. I need to see the day-to-day people delivering. And let's start looking at the NHS people that have done what they've done. Yeah. Those are the inspiration. Those are my role models.
Absolutely. We get influenced by several people from various backgrounds, and what their determination and what their purpose, what they have achieved, or their mindset, their positive mindset, and we look up to them as our role models and try to accomplish what we want to accomplish in our lives. So that's very inspiring. Yeah. We all have a social responsibility, Paul, right? And our responsibility towards the community that we serve in. How do you view your role? I mean, you sit on the board of several companies and also charities as an ambassador. And so how do you view your role as an ambassador for such charities, and what are the lessons that you take from holding such senior positions in addressing the needs of the society?
I think that it's ultimately it's so important to give back, to help and to give back. My parents installed that mindset in me. I'm quite fortunate. I'm financially okay. I'm healthy, and I have a positive mindset. Some people aren't afforded that position. I think it's our responsibility to give back, to help people, to change people's lives. I have a different outlook to certain people. So one of my drivers in life is to educate people, to give people opportunities. But I want to do that to change generations. I think it's important that we change generations and not just for now. So do I want to give somebody some money on a street corner for a sandwich? I do, but I also want to give them training, to give them a job, to give them a house, to give them somewhere to live, to have a family, so they can change their generation. So when I get up in the morning, I'm driven by my charitable positions, by helping out. I'm thinking, what am I going to do today for others? What am I going to do for charities? What am I going to do that? And then I'll put some work in there at some point. I'll go to a company or go to a business. I'll do a little bit of that, but my focus is towards others. Very definitely. But don't let some of the companies know that I'm working with that fact.
Fantastic. I'm so very inspired. You are a visiting professor of entrepreneurship at the Birmingham City University. What are the challenges of starting, business during these times, particularly during the pandemic? And what would be your advice to people with such major aspirations?
I'm humbled and privileged to have the position as visiting professor at Birmingham City University that I've been around probably 20, 25 years. They've given me the opportunity to represent the university, take my opinions to university and take opportunities to university and the university, taking students out. So a number of activities take place that I get involved in, work with some of the marketing students, some of the business students and things like that. My position is to give every student an opportunity, a work placement, you know, and a graduate placement and things like that. So working with those and looking at some of the most brilliant people, intelligent, you know, that we think we're on, you know, on time, on tune, and really sort of intelligent. You speak to people like that, and you're just blown away with their ideas. You know, a young mind is incredible. So driving them, supporting them, and encouraging them is probably where my position is. Now, if I look at people in my life, like one of my mentors is Paul Sabapathi, you know, an incredible, wonderful man who mentors me, you know, and I say I've had a bad day or things aren't going quite right and things like that. And you pick up the phone to Paul and you go, how's your day been? My day's been terrible. You know, call him on call. My day's been not so good. We've got this, that, and the other. Okay, tomorrow's another day. And I went, yeah, and I know that. What do we need to do to put it right? How do we make things go forward? I'm like, well, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. It just encourages me to do what I know I'm going to do, where my sense of purpose is. And that's exactly what I do with students. But maybe open up, exercise my black book with contacts and try and get them opportunities, get them profile. So there's three things that I always talk about. It's not what you know, it's not who you know, it's who knows you. So you've got to be that go-to person. You've got to be that person that everybody wants to engage with, everybody wants to be with. And I try and install that in the students to say, you know, you've got to be known. People have got to know you. Do that. Go to charity, give things back at charity, get a sense of purpose, go into a business, start in a junior role, you know, and then the very first thing you say on your interview, when the person who's interviewing you saying, what's your aspirations? My aspiration is to have your job, you know, and that type of thing, at one day to employ you. You say that on an interview and people go one or two things. One, they'll say, okay, if they've got sense, we'll employ you. Or the second one, they might go, no, you're probably not for us. And if that's the case, then that's not a company for you to work at. So it's confidence, contacts, and credibility is what students need.
That's very valuable input coming from you, Paul. You are very right about it, Dr. Paul Sabapatiji, who's also my mentor. I always ask this question to all my guests on my show. What is it that matters to you the most and why?
I think it's around looking back. So what's my legacy going to be? What have I done? What's happened since I've been on this earth? Have I left this planet a better place than when I arrived? Have I made a difference? Have I made changes for the positive? Have I done the right thing? You know, and I'm not saying that people should talk about me in 100 years' time, but it'd be nice to be remembered as a fantastic, you know, contributor, as a generous, open, honest person that's made a difference. And I think my profile, you know, what people think about me and things like that is quite important. But the most important thing I think is to think about my legacy.
Fantastic. You know, it's a great privilege for me to be associated with this. And thank you so much, Paul, for considering me worthy for this noble initiative. What actually prompted you to start this?
So it was around, it was the negative press, and it was all about that. So I looked at, I'd met a guy called Josh Billingham, who was an artist, a graffiti artist. He was in the top 3 in the world, unknown in Birmingham in the UK. I'd met him previously, and a couple of friends had asked me to meet him, and they just wanted to say, can you help this young artist raise his profile, and if there's anything you could do for him? So I'd got that at the back of my mind. I'd seen all the negativity in the press about, you know, the way that they were challenging the government, they were challenging everything. It was a press with negative, negative, negative. I wrote a piece that I put on LinkedIn, and there was 250,000 people read it, commented and things like that. And then I saw an image of a nurse, a small nurse in scrubs, and this big horrendous virus sticking up her middle finger to the virus. And I was quite, you know, tongue in cheek, thought that was pretty good. Now, I wanted to create something similar to that, but in Birmingham. So we got the artists together. We started drafting some images of what we wanted to do. We got some images. We've got all the key workers, the fire, the police, the ambulance, the NHS. And then we realised that we needed to put shop workers in there, the post office workers, the delivery workers and all of that. And it all came together. So we created some draft images. Then I reached out on Twitter and I said, we want to create a mural. Has anybody got any space? Preferably in all around Digbeth. And in the space of about 2 hours, we had about 20 odd people saying, yeah, we've got some space, we can do that. So the space we found that we were offered was 20 metres by about 30 metres, which was absolutely massive. Now, what I'll do, just to remind everybody, that's what the image kind of looks like. So that's, when you look at this, that's the actual image that we created. So that's what we went out to create. So we wanted to create something bright, something vibrant, and just to send a positive message. What I wanted to do was look at ways of turning this into some money. So creating some money for charity. There were some key charities in Birmingham that I knew were struggling, although many charities did. So I reached out to a friend of mine and I said, if we create some limited edition prints, can we sell these? He came back and he said, yeah, I think we could sell these. And I said, I've got another idea. If I get 100 dignitaries from the city to sign it, to endorse it, would that add value to it? He said, well, nobody's ever done that before. That's pretty unique. So we ended up with 250 dignitaries signing that from all walks of life. Okay, so then we got captains of industry, you know, all that we got of those, we brought them in. Then we got the future faces. So I wanted to represent a generational thing. So the 70-odd-year-olds that have done it, the 50-odd-year-olds that are doing it, the future faces, the 30-year-olds that are going to be doing it. Then we reached out to some of the communities, some of the community leaders, and then I looked at some of the apprentices. We got a nurse whose first day on duty after she left BCU, it was announced that it was lockdown. So her first night on duty, she was an intensive care nurse and she was dealing with COVID. We got hold of her. Some of the future faces and some of the the young people. So we got these 250 people together. Lord Mayor signed it, so we've got the Prime Minister to sign it, and we've got the Leader of the Opposition to sign it. So we've got 250 signatures, and then there's about 4 or 5 signatures that sit outside, including the Prime Ministers and things like that. We've got 150 prints that we're going to sell at £1,000 each, and quite a lot of those have gone. We've got 10 prints that are wet signed, and we had somebody buy one of the prints. First prints that were released paid £20,000 for one of the prints. So we've got that going already. And then we created a book. So we wrote a book around what the 250 dignitaries, what we've done, the story around that, why we've done it, what we're going to do with it. So we've sold out of books. We're going to the second print of books. The books are going to go, we're having 500 books created. So they're going to go into every library and they're going to go into every school in Birmingham. There's a 12-month program about civic responsibilities. All the dignitaries will go into schools as role models. And I'll be talking about civic responsibilities, giving some children some inspiration to look up to, because I would have relished that opportunity. The book is going to go as Birmingham's submission to World Book Day. It's also been included in the British Library, the book has. We presented Boris Johnson with a copy of the print. The print that we gave him is going to go into number 10's private gallery. So it's going to be hung up in number 10. The film that we've created, it has gone pretty much viral. So if you go onto there's going to be a documentary created that will go into schools. We've taken the print, we've taken all the colours off, created jigsaws out of them for the younger children. The middle-aged children get the role models coming in, some activities around that. And the more senior ones start looking at the mindset of what we've done and everything else like that. That'll take place over 12 months. And then we've got some more projects that's going to take us up to 2022. So the Art for Charity brand is going to continue and it's going to develop and it's going to be here for quite a while.
Fantastic. Such a wonderful initiative. What's on your bucket list now?
I think what we're doing with WhatsApp, which is World Against Single-Use Plastic, changing the mindset and things like that. We've got an agreement from the Commonwealth Games that will clear up the waterways. Birmingham's got 22 miles of waterways. That's going to be the routes to the Commonwealth Games, so that all the visitors, the hundreds of thousands of millions of visitors we're going to have, are going to be able to walk down the waterways. I'm supporting the council with a number of initiatives. The clean air, the environment, education, all of these I'm going to put on my bucket list. That kind of thing. What am I going to do for myself? Got some books to write. I've got some more charity support, to shape some charities, to set up some charities, to make a difference, I think. Occasionally I do relax. I do go to a pub, I do socialise, I do go to networking events, I do go to awards nights, and I'll go to a sporting event. I love to go and watch the cricket and watch the rugby, relax. And that type of thing. I don't want to climb Everest. I don't want to jump out of a plane, and I don't want to go to the bottom of the ocean or go to the moon. I think mine's more about realistically deliverable things here, and quietly sit in front of an open fire, with a glass of scotch, and just enjoy myself and relax and think about some of the things that I've done.
That's so very inspiring. With this, we come to the end of the first segment of the chat. How would you describe Professor Paul Cadman?
Mischievous, devious, probably amusing. I'm going to tell you a story that one of my teachers put in one of my reports to say, Paul seldomly takes things seriously, but when he does, men will follow him. So I have renowned for having a sense of humour and never taking anything too seriously.
If you could trade lives with anyone for a day, who would it be and why?
I would trade my life for a day with the Prime Minister, because I'm convinced that I can do a better job than the Prime Minister. And I'm convinced that I can take that job on, take that role on, and make a difference.
What has been your lifelong dream?
It's about enjoying life. It's about changing lives, and it's about having a clear mindset. It's taken me a long time to get to the position where I want to be in my mind, to be relaxed with myself, to be confident and be comfortable in myself.
Is it Netflix or YouTube?
I like YouTube because I constantly go on there. I look at the funny, amusing videos, but then I go on to things that I don't know, so I'll just go searching.
Do you believe in fate?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I believe in karma. I believe in fate. Karma, what goes around comes around, and fate, fate will, if it's going to happen, it will happen. It'll happen for the right reasons or the wrong reasons.
The place you most want to travel?
I enjoyed India. I went to India, followed tigers around the national park, Bench National Park, stopped in the Taj, spent some time in Mumbai and things like that. I'd like to spend more time in India. I'd like to spend more time, in China.
Did you ever believe in Santa Claus when you were a child?
I still believe in Santa Claus. I am a passionate believer that Santa Claus exists, that kind of thing, and he comes every year and things like that. And regardless of what people tell me, I believe in Santa Claus, and that's that.
What's one thing about you that surprises people?
I think because I'm quite a big bloke, look at the stage of my face. Normally I've got no hair, no beard, so I've got shaven head, and I'm a big guy with a broken nose and all this kind of stuff. And I walk in a room and people tend to go, whoa, look at this, who's just walked in? Is he security or somebody that just walked in? Actually, when people speak to me, they get to know me, they realise I'm a friendly, intelligent, jovial kind of chap.
What is that one thing that you would like to change about yourself?
To have found probably my purpose a little bit earlier, to have left the fire service. 20 years in the fire service was good, but it was too long. I tend to focus 4 or 5 years doing the things that I do and then seem to move on. I could have done more things. To have realised my purpose, what I wanted to do and who I wanted to be, probably earlier. and not to have wasted so much time.
City or countryside?
So that's difficult for me because I love my city. I love Birmingham. You know, if you cut me in half, then I'll be like a stick of rock and it'll say Birmingham in the middle. I love the seaside. We go as a family to a place called Barmouth in Wales, which is by the coast. So if you'd have given me the seaside as an alternative, so country, seaside or city, then I would have gone for the seaside. So I'm a seaside person.
Right. Fantastic. I've had a wonderful time speaking to you today, and it's been very inspiring. Thank you so much for your time, Paul.
Thank you for your time today. I really appreciate you taking time out and giving me the opportunity to speak to you. Just thank you again for your time.
My pleasure, and it's my great honor. Thank you so much, Paul.